Well, hello there. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Ryan of Neuroculture. Welcome to another episode of our interview series. Our guest this week is a living legend. This man has been a producer, a writer, a host. He is known for creating such animated series such as The Raccoons, Atomic Betty, producing Parker, as well as being an executive producer on the live-action RoboCop, the series from the 1990s, but we're going to talk more about that in a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest this week, Kevin Gillis. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad that I'm still living. The legend part I don't really care about, but as long as I'm living, I'm okay. On this side of the grass, as I like to say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for being with us. Now, I want to let our audience know at home we are going to be monitoring the comments as we go along. I will let you know we are going to save some time at the end of the show to take your questions from the audience. So I will give you a cue on when it's time to start sending those in. I will also put a banner here up on the screen, but we will get to that just a little bit later on. But if you already have questions, make sure you're writing them down on a sheet of paper so that you can enter them into the comment section a little bit later on in the show. Kick things off. Kevin, first question for you is this. What inspired you to get into becoming a writer and creating animated series?
That's a really good lead-off question. So when I started off in my career, I was a singer-songwriter. I was touring with people like Chris Christopherson, Eric Anderson. These are all names long before your time. Jeff Walker, and I ended up. I ended up actually with my own TV show. I was a variety show, and I enjoyed. I was enjoying animation a lot at that time, even though there wasn't a lot of it in the higher end. There was a lot of Saturday morning animation, like the Jetsons and the Hanna-Barbera stuff, and it was great to watch. But I was fascinated by animation. And when I started off my career as a singer-songwriter, I ended up with a show. It was called Bang Bang, You're Alive. And I asked the director at the time if we could actually have an animated opening. And we did. And the animation just it was one of the coolest parts of the show, putting aside the guests and myself. But right around that time, I happened to see a show it was with Nielsen, if you remember Nielsen, the singer-songwriter. And Dustin Hoffman actually narrated. It was called The Point. And a big song came out of it called Me and My Arrow that Nielsen had recorded. And it really had a major effect on me. And I was writing with a really great writer at the time, Gary Dunford. We were actually writing The Raccoons, the original iteration of it. And after I saw that film, The Point, I decided, you know what, I really want to get into animation. There's something about being able to create the worlds that instead of having to go out and shoot, and of course we didn't have at that time what the special effects and the AI and the AR, augmented reality and CGI that we have now. So you really had to really create what your special effects were going to be. But in animation, your imagination was really only limited by what you had in your noggin. So I got into animation, and I kind of left the world of performing a little bit behind, but I stayed enough interested in music. I was always interested in music to be able to write and co-write all the music for the shows I was involved in. So I got a little bit of the best of all possible worlds that way. So anyway, that was it.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, growing up, you mentioned a moment ago the Jetsons. What were some of your favorite either animated films or animated series while you were growing up?
Oh, boy. Well, I grew up in France, so I didn't see a television set till I was 10. I probably saw one maybe in one of the bars in France. Not that I went to them, but in those days, I remember my parents, if you went out to eat, you ended up kind of going to these taverns in France, and there'd be a TV way stuck in the corner, but I obviously did not get involved in, or it really didn't have the opportunity to look at television until I was 10. So I really got into it probably when I was 11. I was interested in Sky King. I don't know if it's a show that was Penny, and I can't remember her father's name, but he wasn't the flying doctor, but he was kind of a guy who fixed things by flying into places. Obviously the Jetsons, they were way up on my list. And when I moved back from France to Canada, we lived right near the American border, so we could get to see the American shows, unlike most of the rest of the Canadians. And they'd come across, Lake Ontario on the signals, so we got to see. I guess Jetsons, I think, were on ABC in those days, but uh, love that show. Howdy Doody, that was a classic. It was kind of like starting to wane out a little bit, but I ended up writing a song called it was all about Howdy Doody and Gene Autry, and it was called Wild Bill Hickok's Gone Away. And I had a Wild Bill Hickok actually lunch set to go to school with. Um, Other shows at the time, even in the older shows, I was always interested in comedy. I was interested in Ricky Nelson. So the Ozzie and Harriet show had a lot of effects on me. I wanted to be Ricky Nelson, actually. I My first guitar, the first song I ever learned was "Hello, Mary Lou." And I would stand up on my bed so I could look at the mirror and make sure that I was doing the pose right. And, Ricky Nelson had a way of, and rest in peace, Ricky, had a way of pouting his lips. It was really, I just thought it was so sexy, but I don't think the girls at school thought it was that sexy, but still have that guitar though. It was a Stella.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ah.
But it was kind of a combination of the Saturday morning shows and the family hour shows that ran on Sunday nights. That was the night that my mom would make fudge. I came from a large family. There were 7 of us. I was the oldest, so I had to wait till everybody else got their piece. But my mom always gave me the dripping from dropping it into cold water to make sure it was going to stick. So I got that spoon. And then we would watch Ozzie and Harriet. And trying to remember, I think I Love Lucy ran on Sunday nights then as well. So kind of a strange mixture of, early references, everything from animation to comedy to particularly family programming. That's what really interested me in the early days.
Wow. Hey, nothing wrong with having differing or different kinds of lists. You may have one animated series that falls in one genre and another set of animated series that falls in different genres. It's okay, people. We all have our own lists. But the next thing I want to bring up, and this is something that I got to bring this up. I remember going into a video store here in the U.S. and it was called Errol's, EROL''S. And when I went there with my parents would bring me there, we rent VHS tapes, right? One of the first VHS tapes I remember renting as a kid was the Raccoons on Ice. And I never heard of this before. So when my family, we rented the videotape, we brought it home. I sat down, I watched it. I was like, all right, I like the music in this. It's snappy. It's got a good feel to it. I like it. And then the story with the characters of supporting one another, working together as a team, trying to save the lake, making sure that the evil Cyril Sneer and his cronies didn't take it over. So my question for you, it leads right into this. How did you come up with the idea for the Raccoons franchise? How did it all start for you with that?
Well, I briefly touched on it earlier. This writer, Gary Dunford, and I were working on a cooking series in Canada. It ran on the CBC. It was called Celebrity Cooks. And Gary was the writer, and I was the musician. I was the David Letterman band, only a one-man band off in the corner. It really got bad when Oscar Peterson actually had to come on. He was a guest, and he came on with the piano. And the host of the show, Bruno Gerussi, kind of called out, "Kevin, can you play along?" And there's Oscar go, and I'm like, "Can you call out that chord, please, Mr. Peterson?" It was crazy, but we came up with the idea of doing a puppet a puppet series with live action characters, and it was called the Christmas Raccoons. And after I saw the point that I mentioned earlier, I thought that the raccoons would actually, I felt that the world would be more magical, more transformative for young people, for families, if it was animated. The whole notion of having the raccoons tree cut down and then having them have to come back in, and actually I have the album cover right here. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful.
But there's Cyril Sneer on the back.
Yeah.
In his what really was, I mean, the story did come from some reality based up in the Ottawa Valley, but I have to, in order to protect my family and the witness protection program, I
Hmm.
have to, I can never tell who it was based on.
Right, right. Had to change the character names, the locations, everything else has to be fictitious, so you don't reveal too many actual potentially known facts.
And I had to make them aardvarks too, and pink.
Ah, all
But
right.
the buildings look the same.
Hmm.
Anyway, so Gary ended up going on to write for a number of different shows, and I decided to see if I could make Raccoons work as an animated special. And after a lot of work, I worked with a lawyer based out of Ottawa in raising the money. There was a very small niche animation studio in Ottawa that did fabulous work at the time called Atkinson Film Arts. And I went to them, and we cobbled the money together through independent financing. Sheldon Wiseman, who was my partner at the time, he and I, we forwent our pay until people got their money back, and we were able to make it work. And it aired on CBC, it aired on BBC at the time, and it went into syndication in the United States. It aired on France television. We were probably cobbled together maybe, I don't know, 12 countries or so bought that first special. But the ratings were really strong. And the CBC and BBC came back and said, could you do another one? And being a hockey fan, I always wore hockey sweaters in those days. In fact, people would say, like, is there a hockey sweater you don't wear? And I would say, no. And they were always the real sweater. There was a great store in the old Maple Leaf Gardens that sold the original sweaters. And that's all I would wear. Like, I don't think I had a dress shirt. I might have had one, but that's all I would wear is hockey sweaters. So I decided, why don't I do a hockey story? And I worked with a terrific writer out of Los Angeles at the time, Juliet Packer, and we came up with this cool idea to do a hockey story. And we actually had this. This is a name that's a blast from the past. Is Danny Gallivan, who was the voice of the Montreal Canadiens.
Ah.
He's long lost. He's long left us at this point.
Mhm.
Hopefully, he's not long lost. Uh, Danny Gallivan. I asked him. I just reached out cold call to see if he would do the play-by-play, and he said, "I would love to. Would you like to come to the Montreal Forum and sit with me during the game?" He's way up in the catapults, like way up there.
Yeah.
And I remember climbing the ladders and going across the catwalks to get to the gondola. And I was like shaking like this, looking down at center ice, like 500 feet or whatever below me. And Danny got, it's okay, just come along. So he led me to the gondola, and he would do these. It's a cannonading shot. Oh my gosh! Look at that, folks. I mean, it was amazing. I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be terrific." We came to the first intermission. He said, "Would you like a hot dog or a cold drink or something like that?" And I said, "No, I really wanted one, but there was no way I was walking back on that catwalk any more than I had to." So Danny Gallivan did the play-by-play. He still is a legend, a hockey legend that did broadcasts all across North America. I reached out to Rich Little, who had done the Christmas Raccoons narration, and he agreed to do the second one. Rita Coolidge, who was actually, I don't think she was still married to Chris Christopherson at the time, but I'd worked with Chris earlier in my career, and Chris had helped me out very much so. He and his manager got me my first publishing contract in music publishing in New York when I was just a kid. And also Leo Sayer. Leo Sayer came on and did the songs in it as well. And we ended up doing the Raccoons on Ice, the special. And that led the ratings. We got a lot more countries on that one. And the syndication numbers were really strong in the States. We were very fortunate. We had a great team of animators and artists and voice actors and musicians. We worked with the National Arts Center Orchestra. We had a 66-piece symphony orchestra doing the music. we weren't allowed to call them the National Arts Center Orchestra, so we called them the National Raccoon Orchestra. And that's the credit they have on the albums. And we ended up doing that special, which led to the CBC and BBC coming to us and saying, would you like to do a series? So the next special was a 1 hour, which really was the pilot for the series. It was called The Raccoons and the Lost Star.
My goodness. That is quite a story, quite a legacy there. Because I remember going to Errol's and seeing a few of the Raccoons videotapes and seeing them there. I'm like, oh, those are cool covers. I wonder what the story is. And then I watched one or two, a few of them back then when I was just a little boy. And those were some good times. When you go into video stores, you can get lost in those things. Because I walked around certain stores for hours just trying to figure out what movie or what TV series I was going to rent that night. And then you would rent them for a couple of days, sit at home, you'd watch them, when you come home after school or whatever the case may have been. Those were simpler times. Those were they really were, folks. But you know what? This is something I didn't know about until I did a little bit of digging here. The 90s, where I grew up here, there you go, folks. I'm dating myself. The 1990s were a golden age of cinema and television, at least in my opinion. But something I didn't notice here. You were an executive producer on RoboCop, the series from the 1990s. I'm like, how did this slip my mind? Because I like action adventure movies. If I see something about a part man, part machine, all cop, as the posters and marketing advertisements like to tell us, I probably would have sat down in front of the TV in the year that was fantastic, which is 1994 to be more specific, and sat down and watched this thing. So what was it like working as an executive producer for RoboCop the series?
I like to call it my slipping to my dark side. I was producing animation through the 80s, obviously the Raccoons. It was a 11-year journey, quite frankly. We finished the last episode 91, 92. And I was offered a job in Toronto. I was living in Ottawa at the time, offered a job in Toronto to come and work for a company, actually help set up a company. It was owned by Labatt's. Labatt's is a brewery in Canada. And Labatt's owned at that time a huge portfolio of media companies. They owned CPI, which did all the Rolling Stone tours. It was Michael Cole. They owned a large advertising production company. They owned Dome Productions, which even today is probably one of the largest remote production companies where they send their cameras out. Like, I think they're doing part of the bubble down in Orlando right now. I know that they're doing the hockey in Edmonton. So they owned all these companies, but they didn't have a content company. So one of the guys that I was doing all my post-production at Dome Productions, he was the head of Dome Productions. He said, you know what? I need to talk to the overall head of Labatt's and see if we can set up a production company. Would you be interested in helping set that up? I said, sure. So his name was Brian Ross, and he and I started a company called Sky Vision. And I ended up, I think we started at 91 or 92. And I was commuting back and forth from Ottawa to Toronto for about 22 months because my wife didn't think I could get a real job. She kept saying, oh, no. You'll be out of that shortly. You'll be back here. I know it. So anyway, things did work out. And we started this company. And I remember going to my first meeting, and the overall boss, the president of John Labatt Limited, was a lovely, lovely man by the name of Gordon Craig. And Gordon's retired now down in Florida. And I remember having lunch one day with my partner boss, Brian Ross, and Gordon Craig. And I think my lawyer might have been at the table. And I was thinking, oh my God, we've just signed this deal. This is fantastic. We've got all this financing. We've got like a great company behind us, all these collateral associated companies that we can work with, like Dome Productions and Concert Promotions International. And I said, this is going to be great. We can imagine the animation we can do. And Brian leaned over to me and said, Kevin, this is a beer company. And I went, aha, got it. So we never did animation, but we did a lot of great shows. And one of the first ones we did out of the gate we acquired the rights for RoboCop, which Orion Pictures was having some issues at the time. And my boss, Brian Ross, was able to talk Gordon Craig into putting up the down payment in order to get those rights and beat out everybody else. And it was a very interesting deal because Labatt's didn't want to really get into anything that was going to be problematic in terms of their political, political stature in Canada. So we had to cut like little side deals with, writers and agents and everybody else. But turned out we got the original writers from RoboCop the movie. They wrote the pilot. We worked with Stephen Downing, who was doing, I think he was doing MacGyver at the time. I'm pretty sure he was actually. He was actually an ex-LA police captain. Oh. So we had the real goods. He knew what the guns were. We did a whole season. It was probably one of the most, even today, I would say, expensive productions ever done out of Canada. We spent, I think, in the neighborhood of $1.8 million an episode. For at that time was a lot of money. The pilot cost just under $5 million. It was a movie. It was a full movie. Yeah. And we ended up. I recall this. It was probably at the time politically correct, but was the kiss of death for the production. We couldn't show people we could see them getting shot, but they could never fall over. Or they couldn't see blood or anything like that. Right. So you could shoot them, because this was the whole time when I think it might have been was it Ronald Reagan at the time? But they were looking for a more simple, a more empathetic America at the time. So all the broadcasters, that's all they wanted. Please, no blood, no anything like that. So a guy go, pew, the guy, oh, and he'd fall over. Oh. And then he'd get back up. No. So we ended up doing RoboCop. We did 22 episodes. We did a movie, and it did very well, but didn't get renewed because the broadcasters then changed their mind and they wanted tougher stuff. So, but it was a great experience.
I was going to say, it's a little bit harder to imagine anything tougher than RoboCop. He's part man, part machine, all cop. What more do you want in a TV series for action adventure, ladies and gentlemen?
I wish I'd known you were going to bring this up. Because in the other room, I have the helmet.
Oh,
I have the helmet. I have one glove, and I have the prong that he jammed his hand into in order to come alive.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Someday it's going to go on eBay. Someday, but no, it's a great conversation piece. And you know who we had doing the closing theme? We had Joe Walsh from the Eagles.
No kidding.
Yep, we recorded Joe Walsh, and Jack Lenz and I wrote the song. And I remember flying down to I was in France at a conference, and I landed in Toronto. My wife gave me a bunch of clean clothes. I flew down to Cleveland and drove to Dayton, where Joe was laying down the basic tracks with the guys from the James Gang. And then we flew to Arizona to record with Stevie Nicks. And at the end of the track, we got everything done. I brought the masters back, and I got a phone call from Stevie's, I think her manager at the time, saying, we can't release that. I'm sorry to say, we can't release that as a single. That was the deal, because the distributor at the time and the record company wanted to release Joe Walsh and Stevie Nicks as a single. So we couldn't release it as a single. And I said, oh, well, I'm sorry, we're just going to have to find somebody else, which we did. We found Lita Ford. Actually, Joe found Lita. And I flew out like 4 days later to Los Angeles, and Joe and Lita recorded the track. I still have the Stevie Nicks and Joe Walsh original masters, and it's spectacular. So someday it'll go in a museum, maybe in the Rock and Roll Museum in Cleveland.
There you go. Yeah, man. Those are some legendary names you definitely won't forget, whether it's Joe Walsh. I mean, Stevie Nicks. Come on. I got a few of her songs on my mixtapes, man.
She did a blowout performance. I mean, it's really too bad that this never got released, but and Joe Walsh, actually, they were on the Eagles' Hell Freezes Over tour that year. and he went up on stage in Toronto. They played the Canadian National Exhibition Grounds, like a massive place, and sold out, obviously. And he went up on stage, and Robocop came up on stage with him and danced with him while he played one of his songs. It's amazing.
I wish I could have been there for some of these moments, ladies and gentlemen. I just got to say it. I got to say it. But no, that's well and good, Kevin. Great experiences, great stories. Thank you for sharing those with us. The next thing I want to lead into, and also for those of you asking in the chat, yes, we are going to take questions from the audience towards the end of the show. We're getting very close to that. So if you want to start sending in your questions, feel free to do that now. I'm going to leave this here up on the screen. So there's your cue, ladies and gentlemen. Feel free to leave your questions in the comments. We will get to them as soon as we can. Moving on to the next question for Kevin here. How did you come up with the ideas for such series, whether it be Atomic Betty, Producing Parker? How did those come about?
Well, Atomic Betty, I did not create. I developed it. That's okay. I developed it, and I was the showrunner. The guys who created it, Rob Davies, were from Atomic Cartoons in British Columbia. And I was working with a company called Breakthrough in Toronto here at the time. And they had come to Breakthrough with this idea. And they had a trailer, basically. And they were looking to get a series made. And Breakthrough weren't involved in animation at the time. So I came on board. I looked at it and I thought, wow, this is a really cool idea. I love their designs. They were unbelievable guys who could really create and design and had great conceptual ideas. So I met up with them out in Vancouver. We developed a Bible, brought a couple of writers on that were really into the property. I went to Cartoon Network, and it was a pretty tough sell all the way around because they were unknown. But once people saw what they were capable of, they came aboard. We sold it to Cartoon Network in the U.S. Cartoon Network, I think, came aboard. It was Cartoon Network in the U.K. I think ITV came aboard as well as a secondary window. A whole bunch of Cartoon Network channels, and in Canada we went with Teletoon. And we cobbled together enough financing to get one season off the ground. It went very well. And we ended up doing 3 seasons. And we did a whole bunch of interstitials as well. Had a lot of fun. A lot of fun. These guys are just fabulous storytellers. And every Friday afternoon, if I was out in Vancouver working with them, we would go and sit at this outdoor Mexican bar and come up with ideas for the next episode or 5 episodes down. God knows. They were fabulous at coming up with concepts. And we had a great Alex Galatis, great writer on board. Really, the key to all of this is just, I say the key, I mean, the keys change all the time. It's kind of like a musical symphony or whatever, or musical chairs. But the key at that time was certainly having terrifically creative people who were collaborative and willing to roll up their sleeves and work hard. You know, if a script didn't work or an act didn't work, we'll go back and try it again. You know, try something different, shake it up, and be willing to open your mind to other ideas. And I think we were fortunate. We had great writers, great animators, great voices. I've been fortunate to work with some of the best animation voices in the industry, and some of them have moved on, and some new ones are coming up, and it's been a great journey that way. It still is. Working with an amazing project right now out of Korea. I never thought that I would get involved in a ghosts and monster project based on Asian mythology, but I'm working with 2 young creators out of Korea who have published a book over there that took off, and they've got great stories, and people like K-pop are now reaching out to them for their designs, and that it's it's been thank you up there or down there. I've been very fortunate to be working with people who actually make my job not only easier, but make it fun to go to work every day. whether you're remotely working or whether you're working in a studio. Just fun every day. If you bring the fun to it, the fun will show up on screen.
That's great. Absolutely, absolutely. So, my next question: after working on such series, whether it be Atomic Betty, producing Parker, all these wonderful people, have you kept in touch with the voice actors and other people who have worked with you over the years on some of these projects?
Oh, for sure. Unfortunately, the guy, it's a really amazing story. The guy who did most of the, not all, but most of the voices on the Raccoons. By the way, we didn't show that I brought my alter ego here today, did we? Can we just move it for a second here?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Who are your friends here?
Okay. Well,
Oh.
Cyril Sneer.
Mm-hmm.
He's here. Oh, hey, Cyril. Wave your nose at us. No. Bert Raccoon. Can you see Bert there?
Yep, I can see him in the sweater.
Yeah, there's Schaefer the dog. Yeah.
Schaefer, yes.
And there's Brew down in the corner.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I don't normally take them out of their bedroom, but they wanted to come along today, so they're here. A lovely gentleman by the name of Len Carlson, who was actually, I think he was like a AAA ball player at one point from, I don't know, he played in Alberta. He did the voice. He was when Mel Blanc got ill, they brought in Len Carlson to work doing, I think it wasn't Daffy Duck. He did Bugs Bunny, and I think he did Elmer Fudd as well. I could be wrong about that, but he was like the backup voice for Mel Blanc. He came on and did Bert Raccoon. He did one of the pigs. Don't ask me which one. I don't know if I got the pigs here to show you, actually. Yes, I do have a picture of one of the pigs here. There, you can.
Oh.
This is a scene from the Raccoons and the Lost Star.
Oh, I see it.
Can you see it okay there?
Yeah, that's some great work there. Wonderful.
Yeah. So he did one of the pigs, and he did Lady Baden-Baden, who was a really interesting character that a lot of people have asked me, particularly in the UK, whether I modeled her after Margaret Thatcher. And I have to say, no comment. But she was a great, great character. She was a socialite. She knew how to put people, including Cyril Sneer, especially Cyril Sneer, in his place. He did Lady Baden-Baden. I mean, he could do male, female, low, deep voices or high, squeaky voices like the pigs. I mean, but he didn't do Cyril Sneer. That was, excuse me, Michael McGee. But Len Carlson went on to do, I believe, probably 18 or 19 voices on the Raccoon series over time. I brought him on to do Atomic Betty, and sadly, he passed away. He was doing probably at least 14, 15, 16 voices in the first season on Atomic Betty. And sadly, he passed away at the end of the first season, and was a young writer, actor who came to the service and got up to speak after the service was over, and said that he had been following Len Carlson. He was kind of like you in terms of your knowledge on films and your knowledge on television. And, he was like a student, but he was like a PhD student in voices. His name was Dwayne Hill. And he came to me afterwards. He said, are you going to be looking for somebody to? I said, yeah. He said, can I come in and try out? Sure. He came in, he nailed all of the parts that Len had in Atomic Betty. And he's become a wonderful friend. So I obviously stay in touch with him. He moved to New York. There have been some great voices. Actually, when you and I were just chatting before we went on air, I was thinking we've just remastered all of the music from the Raccoons. And I was thinking, I got to reach out to Rita Coolidge and Leo Sayer and John Schneider and Lisa Lougheed and Luba, and ask them to do like a little piece of film about their role, because they sound amazing. And I was thinking, because Leo Sayer, Rita Coolidge, Luba, all of these people, they just didn't sing the songs. They had to play a role. as well. They had to act a role. And Leo Sayer, he was fabulous, and so was Rita. I mean, they were all fabulous. But if you think of Leo Sayer, you don't think of him as a forest ranger, but he's a great forest. And you don't think of Rita Coolidge as a mama raccoon, but she sure pulls it off. Anyway, so I've thought about reaching out to them with early voices and that. But yeah, I still stay in touch. Many of them have retired. Some of them have gone on to raccoon heaven, and some of them are, I'm still finding new voices all the time. This one young creator over in Korea, she's got this perfect voice, I think, for one of the characters in her creation and that. But yeah, you never know. One of the biggest things that I've always found, working with voice actors is, if you can find people who've got stand-up comedy talent, they make the best voices because they have the ability. You really don't want them to replicate what you've got on a script. You want them to bring something else to the table. You want them to channel that voice, that character. And if they can channel that character, let them start ad-libbing. And honestly, I would say 90% of the time you're going to use the ad-libs.
Nice. Okay, I can see that. Well, yeah, a lot of great talent. A lot of names have come and gone over the years. So, we've heard this for years now. Hollywood, when they tend to have a little bit of a tough go at coming up with original ideas and stuff, they like to do something called rebooting or remaking. That is something that Hollywood loves to do each and every day of the week and twice on Sunday for those of you who are keeping score at home. And yes, I see your thoughts in the comments. We are going to get to your questions in just a moment, I promise, but I do want to ask this. Would you ever consider revisiting any of these series at some point in time, whether it be as a reboot or a continuation or, somewhere along those lines? What do you think?
We ended up working with the CBC here in Canada fairly recently, in the last 2 years, and we developed a new Christmas special for the Raccoons. And unfortunately, we did a script. We did a little trailer. Actually, Dwayne Hill worked on the trailer. New character designs, fabulous. Jessica Barutsky, who did Bunnicula, and she's done Bunnicula. She's done actually all of the Looney Tunes characters. She's been directing them. She did the new designs. Unfortunately, CBC decided to get out of the specials business. And so we've been struggling, trying to figure out how do we make that work now. So we are talking to a couple of broadcasters, and I think one of the thoughts actually that I had, because what we're looking at is remastering, not just the music and restoring the music, but remastering and restoring all of the 35 millimeter original prints to 4K. And we've tested 2 of them, and we're looking to actually relaunch via streaming and Blu-ray all of the original episodes. So as we're struggling to get this new special going, one of the people that I'm working with at Big Jump Studios in Ottawa said, well, why don't we do a social funding where we actually restore the specials only. We've got 3 major specials that haven't seen the light of day probably in 30 years. Got major stars at that time attached. Take them from the original. We have the 35 millimeter prints. We have the original 35 millimeter mag stereo. Go back to them, restore them, but also bring out at the tail end the brand new Christmas special. So you see the whole arc. And every week you let people come on and see where you're at. You show them the designs. You show them the line test. You have the talent to talk to them. You bring on, and we'd be looking for like a major new music star to take over to be the next stage in that whole process. Because we've got, John Schneider, Rupert Holmes, remember Rupert Holmes? Was the song "If You Like Pina Coladas and Walk Into the..." Rupert Holmes did the music and also played a major role in the Christmas Raccoons. So we'd have Rita, Leo, Rupert, of course, Rich Little, amazing voice, and then transitioned it over to the new special. So we were kind of playing around with that idea. I don't know how the audience how they'd react. We just actually came up with that idea last week, so we're thinking of it. And what we would do is make available a limited edition Blu-ray that would just go to the people who helped make it happen. And then there'd be another Blu-ray that would not necessarily be a limited edition that would go to the public.
Wow, everything would come full circle for this journey of yours. That would be a sight to see, and I do hope that comes to fruition. It happens for you. We wish you the best of luck with that. We really do. So we are going to switch over now.
Thank you.
We are going to switch over now. The audience is got a few questions for you, so I'm going to bring them up here on the screen. We're going to go from there and see how it goes. So here it goes. So Zach, with our first question, was Burt Raccoon based on anyone? And what was it like finding the voice talent for the show? And whatever happened to Ranger Dan or Tommy or even Julie, as well as Sophia Tutu? I know that they were written out over the course of time.
Oh my gosh. Zach, thank you. You hit a bit of a button right there that I'm going to show you something. Whatever happened to Burt Raccoon? Burt Raccoon was obviously a created character, but I think there's a lot of me in him. People have said that. I didn't think, obviously, when you're creating a character and you're writing a character, and obviously writers, when they get involved in a character, they expand upon the character. The character is growing all the time. So I don't think, I didn't start out to make Burt like me, but the fact that he likes peanut butter and he's kind of, he's irascible, he's unpredictable. He acts first and then thinks about it after. My wife will tell you that's me. So that's probably Burt Raccoon, the closest. There was no pattern of an individual, but I guess the character that you end up making the silliest is probably a bit of you in it. Ranger Dan, we had kids in the first 3 specials, as you know. Christmas Raccoons, the one that Ryan was talking about, Raccoons and Ice, the hockey special. Actually, interestingly enough, if you look closely, you'll see that Cedric Sneer, who wins, I'm not going to do any spoilers here, but he was the one who was a great hockey player. If you look closely, the hockey sweater he's wearing bears a faint resemblance to a certain team in New York that had to move from an island to another island.
I knew it looked familiar.
So anyway, Ranger Dan and Tommy and Julie were in the first 3 specials, and they were kind of the transition that got you from the story of the human life into the raccoon's life. And we decided when we went to series that we probably would be better to just, for the sake of expediency, start in the raccoon's world and stay in the raccoon's world. It was a tough decision, frankly, because the people who had played Ranger Dan, whether it was Leo Sayre or Rupert Holmes or John Schneider, I mean, they did a great job. And the kids who played Tommy and Julie did great work. We always had people reacting back. The one character that you just mentioned, I'm just going to reach over here and see if I've got it. Okay. Hold on a second. You did mention a character that I get a lot of flack for. I really like this character. I was interested in figure skating at the time when we did racket. Well, still are. I still am. Sorry. I was looking through some artwork earlier today when I knew I was coming on to do this, and I saw this original design, and I've got many people have said, "Whatever happened to?" She was my favorite character, Sophia Tutu. So I'll try to get this up close where you can see it. You see it? Okay?
Yep. Wow.
Now, Sophia Tutu was the figure skater, and I love the fact that Paul Shibley wrote these notes. Paul was the animation director, amazing guy. He wrote
Mhm.
these notes here. Small, delicate hands. Got it. Hair drops down at back, slight peanut shape on heavy eyelid. Okay, you can kind of see it there. See her eye? You can see it there, her eyelids.
Mhm.
Do you see it?
Yep.
Anyway, and then my best part, keep the nose short. Because she's got the same nose
As similar characters.
as Cyril Sneer, because she's an
Yeah.
aardvark. She's a pink
Yes.
aardvark.
Yep. I noticed that during the show.
Yeah. And then the notes on Cyril are actually pretty good. Sharp nails. Okay. Avoid the head-on views. Don't know why.
Mhm.
Crease the cigar in clenched teeth. No overlapping of the teeth. Flat feet, overlapping lines. I mean, he was so into the animation designs. It was just incredible. They were so detailed. So,
Mhm.
so detailed.
Oh wow.
But
And giving as much feedback as possible.
you know what? We would have animators would come back. I think I've talked about this at one interview I did. The thing I found so fascinating when we opened our own animation studio eventually, and the animators were all like, it was a really cool studio. It was called Hinton, and it was on Hinton Avenue in Ottawa. The animators were all in these really cool, they weren't cubicles. It was like an open concept workspace. We were ahead of our time. And most of them would go and get these rear view mirrors from old cars and fix them either through screws or tape or whatever just above their work table, the slanted table with the disc in the middle. They would put their mirror up there. And I was like always watching them, thinking to myself, this is the early days. I'm going, what? Why have they got these mirrors here? And it was because they would like to mime the voices for the acting part. So they would be listening, through their time. I think it was probably Walkmans, or they were tape Walkmans. They would listen to the track they're working on, and they'd mime the mouth movements so that they could actually animate them properly. So it was an eye-opening experience for me. Zach, I hope I've answered your questions there, but I love the fact you brought up Sophia Tutu, because so many people, friends of mine, have said, you got to bring back Sophia. She was great.
Yep, absolutely. So next question is going to be coming from Elijah. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Oh yeah, if you're planning on re-releasing the series, and whether it be DVD or Blu-ray, I bet you'll include the music video of Lisa Loveheed's Run With Us. That video's got groovy choreography as well as clips from the Raccoons and the Lost Star. I'd like to know how that music video was done.
Thank you, Elijah. Really interesting question. Yes, we've just remastered it. We've remastered all the songs except 5. We're in the final 5 right now. We've got I'd say about 7 or 8 songs that were never released, and those are the ones that are part of the remastering now. We are looking to launch on Spotify and Apple, and possibly a limited edition CD for those who like their quality a little higher than what's on Spotify. Or did I say that? Sorry. But we've remastered everything. They sound incredible, unbelievable. Run With Us. We're going to release 2. We're going to re-release the Lisa Lougheed version, and also my co-writer at the time, Stephen Lunt, from the UK. Stephen wrote She Bop. He did a lot of work with Cyndi Lauper. He was a lead singer for City Boy at the time. Great writer. He did a version in the first season that was never released, and we just remastered it. It sounds spectacular. But yes, both versions will end up out there. Your question on the video, we shot the video in Toronto, in a back alleyway that was next to one of the theaters, one of the old proscenium theaters there. And Lisa Lougheed at the time, not Lisa Raccoon, but there was a Lisa Raccoon, as you know. Lisa Lougheed was very much a dancer and a performer, and great performer, and she did songs through the whole rest of the seasons, and all 5 seasons. And we were very fortunate to have great performers. Curtis King Jr., who worked with God knows how many people, just about everybody, great singer. He's on there as well. We've remastered his stuff. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yes, we will probably. I'm thinking about that video. I haven't gone back to remaster the 35 millimeter on that, but we do have it, so I can do that. We're just in the process of getting the music done. The next steps will be the episodes and the video. But thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Zach, excuse me, has our next question. Is there anywhere where we could potentially purchase an autographed Raccoons poster of some kind? Thank you.
Earlier this year, just before the pandemic struck, one of the agents who does Comic Cons reached out to me and asked me if I would I be interested in doing Comic Cons, and I said, yeah, it'd be kind of cool. He sent me an example of what I'd have to do, and I said, sure, sounds great. So he came up with a really cool idea. I don't know if I do have some of them here actually. And he said, you've got all these great cells. Why don't we do a really high-end scan of them, print them, and we'll sign them to people, and some of the money then can go to the COVID food banks. So we started doing it, and I can show you some of them here.
Oh, very nice.
So, and then this is one of my favorites.
Oh, sneer.
Cyril and Snag. I just love that shot. There's so much love. I mean, really.
yeah, there is. I can totally see that, by the way, yes.
And here they are. This is a shot from the Raccoons and the Lost Star when they're trying to break into Cyril Sneer's mansion. And,
oh, that's right. It's all that part of the series is coming back to me now, yes.
And Bert is looking over. He just realizes, oh my God, it's that far. It's kind of a shot from me looking down on the Montreal Forum when Danny Gallivan took me across the catwalks.
Yes, that's great. That's a great looking print.
Oh, they're fabulous prints.
Yes.
And there's Schaefer and Brew.
Oh my goodness.
And that's a background from the Raccoons and the Lost Star.
Mm-hmm.
And this one here is from Buried Treasure. And it's when Bert, Cedric, and Brew find this treasure down, and of course, you know what's going to happen.
A little bit of a face-off there, a little bit of a standoff situation kind of going on there. My goodness.
Yeah. So that's what
great stuff.
That's what we're thinking of doing. What we are doing. We're happy to. I don't know whether. If you reach in, I guess to Ryan, we'll follow up with you. Because the money goes to a good cause. There are so many people who are still suffering in a big way because of the pandemic, and food banks is one way that we can help. We are looking at if we do the social fundraising for the new special and the combining it, that we will consider taking some original cells, a limited amount of them, and making them available as well. So which would be really cool. The cells we kept them in pristine condition. We kept them in climate controlled and separated by tissue. They look as good as the day they were made. So, and the best thing about a cell.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So here are the cells, and of course they're see-through because they're done on acetate. But when you look the back of a cell, the painters who paint the cells, they're painted, as you can see. It's almost like a reverse. So you have to start with the first color and go to your last color.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Very, very fascinating. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are watching this, if you're interested in helping out with what Kevin and his team are trying to do, you can send us an email to itsnerdculture@gmail.com, and we will pass that information on to Kevin, and he will, we'll pass your information on to him. He will be able to get back in touch with you, and we can go from there. So send us an email. It's nerdculture@gmail.com, and we are more than happy to pass that information on to Kevin, and we will go from there. Moving on to our next question. Terry coming in hot. Terry says, Kevin, have you managed to see Cybertronic Spree, a Canadian Transformers band covering Run With Us? Highly recommended, he says. Great to see Hot Rod, RC, Unicron, etc., jamming to the theme from the Raccoons. Are you familiar with Cybertronic Spree?
I have seen it. Somebody sent it to me, and I have to say it's fantastic. It's a great fun because they dressed up as robots, I guess. And really very well done. Very, very, very well done. We've had actually, interestingly enough, we've had a lot of people recording Run With Us very recently. Everything from country and western, bluegrass, to heavy metal, to dance music. There's like a 9-minute version in the UK right now by I guess it's a DJ band, and there's one out of Germany that has got like kind of a disco feel to it. It's interesting. My son is a DJ producer, and he travels all over the world. He does tracks for, beats, and writes music for a lot of well-known people. And I keep saying, hey, this is your dad talking here. Would you mind doing a remake of Run With Us? Because he does mostly Latino dance music. And I said, it would kind of be cool if you could do it in Latino dance. Okay, Dad, okay. This ask has been going on for like 5 years. So one of these days he'll do it. But it's, I'm not sure if I fully answered your question, but I really like what they did. It's very, very cool. Very cool. They, I should probably, you know what? We have a Raccoon channel, I think, on YouTube now that one of our partners is working with. I should get them to put it up on that because it's very interesting how they did it. Very cool. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So I believe Elijah here has another one. He says, I wonder why they didn't credit Leo Sayer on the Raccoons on Ice Story record. Any thoughts on that?
You know what? They didn't?
I mean, that's what Elijah's saying, but maybe, I mean, I don't have the information in front of me, but that was his question. He's wondering why they didn't credit Leo Sayer on the Raccoons on Ice Story record specifically.
I thought they did. I know that he's on... I've got the record. He's certainly on the this one here, which is the Rita Coolidge and Leo Sayer. And I'm looking on the Christmas Raccoons that we just had a minute ago.
That's a cool looking cover album, I gotta say. I mean that brings back some memories going into the Arrows right there. I mean, it's kind of hard to miss Raccoons, animated Raccoons, I should say, on a VHS box at your local video store. I'm just saying.
I have to touch on that for a second. I think it was such a cooler and more educational activity to go through a DVD or a tape store, a VHS store, and see you could see the credits, you could see what everybody did, you could see, and you had the graphics, then scrolling through like you do today, scrolling through like Netflix or something. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It was just so much more visceral to be there in the store. But anyway, on Christmas Raccoons, Rupert Holmes is down here as the voice of Dan the Ranger, and Rita Coolidge is down as the voice of Melissa Raccoon. You know what? I'm going to have to check that album. I've got one. I'll go check and see. But boy, that's really crazy that we didn't credit him because he did a great job. He was Dan the Ranger. Great job.
Well, we're coming to the end of the show here. I don't see any more questions from the audience, but if you have any last-minute ones, feel free to toss them in, folks. I'm going to bring up this comment. This is from one of our members of the Nerd Culture team. She works with us on the channel. Caroline likes to say, as an aspiring TV producer, this is awesome to hear. Thank you so much for being on Nerd Culture, Kevin.
Thank you, Caroline. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. It was great being here. I have to say, Ryan has got such an immense knowledge of of all things film and television, it's great to be able to, go back and forth. If you got half a second, can I leave my station here and just go grab something?
Sure, you can do that. I can I can talk to the audience for a bit while you do so.
It'll be half a minute, not even that.
It's okay. Go right ahead. Yeah, that's all right. Thank you, Kevin. So Kevin's going to step aside for a minute. I just want to let you all know, thank you so much for being with us today. We do appreciate it, whether you're liking or sharing this video with your family, your friends, your coworkers. We really, really appreciate it. A lot of videos are up on our channel right now. We got a lot of new ones coming your way very soon. Thank you for tuning in to our continuing series of interviews we have here on the interview series, I should say. But yes, for those of you who are wondering, yes, the rumors are true. We do have an online store for you to purchase merchandise that has nerd culture all over it, whether they are t-shirts, stickers, or stationery, or if you want a poster or a set of sheets, pillowcase, what have you. They are available on our Redbubble store. We have a link to those on the Facebook page as well as our social media. If you go to our Instagram account, @itsnerdculture, you can find links to all our social medias. The things we have coming up there, as well as our online store. So be sure to check out our Redbubble. We got merchandise now. It's great. It's a wonderful thing. And I believe Kevin is back with us here in the studio. Kevin, are you with us?
I am. This is a special treat. I've never shown this to anybody unless they've come to my house and come into the family room. And even then, I'm very careful. So
a special treat for all of us at home.
This here is Robocop's glove.
Oh, my goodness.
Not as hard as you would think it is. And this here is the real helmet.
Oh, man. Does anyone have any flashbacks coming back to them, whether it be from the 90s TV series or the movie trilogy from the 80s? I know I do.
Came apart. It's the only way it would fit.
Uh-huh.
And of course, it says OCP Police.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, on the side there. Yeah.
We remember that. Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Whether it's movie or TV memorabilia, believe me, I have my fair share of stuff here in the man cave.
I'll bet you do.
Yeah, you do as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. But I got to ask you now that you bring those visual aids to the screen, showing the lovely audience at home as well as the host sitting in the chair over here, what's your favorite line from RoboCop? What's your favorite line? Do you have a favorite quote from that series at all? Maybe it's a series of the movies. It doesn't matter. What sticks out in your mind?
Me or the audience?
Yeah, I'm asking you as well as the audience. If you have any thoughts on this, what is your favorite line from whether the TV series of RoboCop or the movie franchise? What are your thoughts, Kevin?
That's really a tough one. Certainly not make my day. Although that would have been a great line for RoboCop. Yeah. I think probably... You know what? I'm going to have to leave it to the audience on that. I'm verklempt.
That's okay. That's okay. I have two or three, but I'll just throw one out there. One of my favorites is "Dead or Alive, you are coming with me."
Yes. No. Hey, you did that well. You have to get a bit more. Just open the line up. Dead or alive, you coming with me?
I remember watching the movie. It's good stuff. Think it over, creep. It's just So you got to think a little deeper there. Let me see. Terry's jaw just dropped as your visual aids came up on the screen, whether it be the glove or the helmet. So thank you, Terry. Oh, here's one. Elijah says, "What's your favorite Raccoons episode?"
I would have to say the one that got away. It's a story about Bert and Cedric going to their old fishing hole. It was one of the last shows of the season, of the series. And they went to their old fishing hole to be able to see if they could catch old Tom. And Tom was a big old trout that had lived in that fishing hole forever. And I won't do a spoiler on it, but the mini spoiler is that even when they caught him, they had to do the right thing. And it was... And old Tom was named after my youngest brother. Not that I think of him as a fish. he works for the Senators, not one of my favorite. Well, actually, one of my favorite hockey teams. They just never get anywhere. But Tommy is Tommy. We used to call him Tom Tom. Now he's called Tommy. He likes to pull my leg every once in a while. So I thought, this is quite a while back. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do a. I'm gonna call one of the characters Old Tom. It's also my dad's name, but Dad didn't think of him as an old fish.
Fish. Well,
Anyway.
we kind of wrap this up with the audience questions here. Elijah says, wasn't that the episode you just spoke about, the 59th or the 60th episode? The one that got away?
Yep.
So that's what it was being more specific
Yeah.
about. Well,
Boy,
that is
Elijah knows his stuff.
our audience at home.
Gosh.
They are very knowledgeable, and we appreciate them for interacting with us and joining us here on the show. That is going to do it for this episode of the interview series here on Nerd Culture. My name is Ryan. Kevin Gillis, where can the fans follow you on social media and all the upcoming projects you have coming up?
I don't have a website right now, but I think the best thing to do, we do have, I think it's called Run With Us. We've just set it up, Run With Us. We have a site and the Raccoons. So if you go to Run With Us on YouTube, you should be able to see clips from the Raccoons, etc. And we're just about to open it all up in terms of doing some cool, bringing some of the teaser music there, as well as some cells and background materials, videos that have never been seen before. And we're very thankful to the fans that are out there. They've been great fans all these years. It's just, as I say, it's a joy to get up and go to work in your pajama bottoms and your t-shirt top. Anyway.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Once again, my name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at It's Nerd Culture. Make sure you're liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. A lot of things are up on our channel right now. We got a lot of new things coming your way very soon. Once again, thank you, Kevin, for joining us. Thank you out there for watching this episode and for joining us. My name is Ryan, and we will see you next time. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay strong, and have fun, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.